Quiet truths often hide behind the qualities the world celebrates the most. Kindness is praised. Patience is admired. Selflessness is treated like the highest form of love. But there is another side to this story that very few people ever stop to examine. What if endless kindness is not always a sign of emotional strength? What if constantly putting everyone else first is not simply part of your personality? What if the person who always notices everyone else's feelings, who feels guilty for saying no, who apologizes even when nothing is their fault, and who carries the emotional weight of every relationship is not just naturally different, but was quietly shaped by experiences they never fully understood? Many people proudly call themselves empaths, believing they were simply born with bigger hearts than everyone else. While empathy is one of the most beautiful human qualities, psychology suggests that, in some cases, extreme empathy may also develop as a survival strategy. A child who learns that peace is earned by staying quiet, pleasing others, or hiding personal needs may grow into an adult who believes their value depends on making everyone else comfortable. That belief can become so deeply rooted that it feels like part of their identity. They stop asking what they need because they become experts at noticing what everyone else needs first. They become the emotional caretaker in every room without even realizing why. The most surprising part is that this pattern often feels completely normal. It can take years, even decades, before someone begins to question whether their kindness has been mixed with fear, guilt, or the need for approval. This is where the story becomes far more fascinating than most people expect, because the answers are not found in simple personality labels. They are hidden in childhood experiences, emotional conditioning, and psychological patterns that quietly shape adult relationships. Throughout this video, we will explore why some children grow up believing that being easy to love means asking for less, why saying no can create overwhelming guilt, why certain people feel responsible for fixing everyone's emotions, and why many empaths struggle to recognize their own needs until they reach complete emotional exhaustion. We will also uncover what psychology teaches about people-pleasing, emotional hyper-awareness, boundaries, and the hidden difference between healthy empathy and empathy that grows from emotional survival. Along the way, you may recognize patterns that have existed in your own life for years without ever having a name. Even more importantly, you will discover why healing does not require becoming cold, distant, or selfish. It requires understanding the child who learned that love had to be earned instead of freely received. That single realization can completely change the way you see yourself, your relationships, and the choices you make every day. Stay with us until the very end, because the final insight brings everything together in a way that many people never hear, and it could completely reshape what you believe about empathy, selflessness, and emotional strength. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoy thoughtful conversations that explore psychology, human behavior, and the deeper reasons behind the way we think, feel, and connect with others, make sure to subscribe and join our growing community. Now, let's uncover the hidden story behind the empath and the child who was never allowed to be selfish. A child rarely wakes up one day and decides to ignore their own needs. That pattern usually develops little by little through countless small moments that seem ordinary at the time. Every family is different, and not every empath has the same childhood. But many children slowly learn an unspoken lesson. Love feels safest when they make life easier for everyone else. They notice that praise comes when they stay quiet, when they do not argue, when they do not ask for too much, and when they keep their emotions under control. No one may ever say these words directly, yet the child begins to connect acceptance with self-denial. Instead of asking, "What do I need?" they begin asking, "What will keep everyone happy?" This shift happens so gradually that it feels natural. They become the child who never causes trouble, the child who says, "It's okay," even when it isn't, the child who comforts others while quietly carrying feelings they do not know how to express. On the outside, adults often describe them as mature, thoughtful, and wonderfully kind. On the inside, they are often trying to avoid disappointment, criticism, rejection, or emotional distance. Their kindness is real, but beneath it is another purpose. They are not trying to become extraordinary people. They are trying to stay emotionally safe. That difference changes everything. A child who believes love can disappear at any moment becomes very careful. Every word matters. Every expression matters. Every silence matters. They become experts at reading the emotional weather around them because they believe their security depends on it. If someone enters the room looking upset, the child immediately wonders if they caused it. If voices become louder, their body becomes tense before their mind even understands why. If someone seems disappointed, they search for a way to fix it. This constant emotional adjustment slowly becomes part of who they are. They stop expressing anger because anger might create conflict. They stop expressing sadness because sadness might burden someone else. They stop expressing disappointment because disappointment might make others feel guilty. Piece by piece, their own emotional world becomes smaller while everyone else's emotions become their main focus. Many years later, people admire how caring they are without realizing how much of that care was built on survival rather than freedom. Children who constantly scan the room do not stop scanning when they become adults. Their surroundings may change, but the habit remains. The nervous system remembers what the conscious mind often forgets. As adults, they continue reading faces before words are spoken. A tiny change in someone's voice immediately catches their attention. A delayed text message suddenly feels meaningful. A short answer during a conversation seems like a warning sign. While other people move through social situations naturally, they are silently collecting emotional information every second. They notice the smallest shifts that many people completely miss. This ability often looks like extraordinary empathy, and in many ways it is. They can sense pain before it is spoken. They notice sadness hidden behind smiles. They understand emotions that others struggle to explain. These qualities can create deep and meaningful relationships. However, there is another side that receives far less attention. Healthy empathy allows someone to understand another person's feelings while still remaining connected to themselves. Trauma-driven hypervigilance feels different. Instead of simply recognizing another person's emotions, they feel responsible for managing them. Instead of noticing sadness, they immediately search for ways to remove it. Instead of respecting another person's emotional journey, they carry it as if it belongs to them. This constant responsibility becomes exhausting because they are no longer observing emotions. They are absorbing them. Every conversation becomes emotional work. Every disagreement feels dangerous. Every relationship becomes another place where they must stay alert. Without realizing it, they become the emotional caretaker in friendships, romantic relationships, workplaces, and even among strangers. People naturally come to them for comfort because they seem endlessly understanding. Yet very few people stop to ask who comforts, the one who is always comforting everyone else. Over time, another belief quietly settles into their identity. Looking after themselves begins to feel wrong. Even simple needs create unexpected guilt. Rest feels lazy. Boundaries feel selfish. Asking for support feels embarrassing. Saying no feels almost impossible. Deep inside, a silent voice repeats the same message over and over. My needs do not matter as much as everyone else's. I should not create problems. Good people sacrifice. If someone is upset with me, I must have done something wrong. These beliefs rarely appear all at once. They develop through repetition until they feel like unquestionable truth. As adults, these patterns continue without conscious awareness. They agree to favors they cannot handle because disappointing someone feels unbearable. They remain in unhealthy friendships because leaving feels cruel. They stay in relationships where love is one-sided because they believe trying harder will eventually fix everything. Even when they feel exhausted, they convince themselves that everyone else deserves care before they do. Ironically, many people around them see them as incredibly strong because they rarely complain. What others cannot see is the constant conversation happening inside their mind. They are always measuring whether they have given enough, helped enough, loved enough, sacrificed enough, or forgiven enough. No amount of kindness ever feels complete, because the goal was never simply to be kind. The goal was to earn emotional safety, and that goal can never truly be satisfied through endless giving. Eventually, this way of living begins to demand a heavy price. The person who always says yes slowly forgets what they would choose if they were free to answer honestly. Burnout does not happen overnight. It builds through hundreds of small moments of ignoring personal limits. Emotional exhaustion becomes normal. They wake up tired even after resting because their mind never truly stops carrying other people's problems. They often attract emotionally unavailable partners or friends because they have become comfortable doing all the emotional work in a relationship. They become the listener, the fixer, the peacemaker, and the rescuer while receiving very little in return. One-sided relationships start to feel familiar because they resemble the emotional role they learned long ago. At first, they tell themselves they are simply generous. Later, quiet resentment begins to grow. They wonder why no one notices their pain. They wonder why they feel invisible despite giving so much. The answer is often painful. When someone spends years hiding their own needs, other people may never realize those needs exist at all. Perhaps the greatest loss is not energy or time but identity itself. After spending so many years focused on everyone else's happiness, many struggle to answer the simplest questions. What brings me peace? What do I actually enjoy? What do I want without worrying about anyone else's opinion? These questions seem surprisingly difficult because they were never given enough space to ask them. The child who once believed that safety depended on becoming easy to love grows into an adult who sometimes cannot tell where genuine kindness ends and lifelong self-abandonment begins, and that hidden line shapes far more of their life than they ever realized. As people begin looking deeper into psychology, one name appears again and again because of the way he explained the hidden parts of the human mind. Carl Jung believed that every person carries pieces of themselves that they learn to hide. He called this hidden side the shadow. The shadow is not simply made of anger, jealousy, or fear. It also contains healthy parts of ourselves that we believed were unacceptable at some point in life. A child who learns that speaking up creates conflict may hide confidence. A child who is punished for expressing frustration may hide anger. A child who feels loved only when they are helpful may hide personal desires. These parts do not disappear. They simply move out of sight. They wait quietly beneath the surface, shaping thoughts, emotions, and relationships without asking for attention. This idea helps explain something that many empaths struggle to understand. They often believe they were simply born to care for everyone else. But Jung's work invites a different question. What if the part of you that wanted to be cared for never stopped existing? What if it was simply pushed into the background because it felt unsafe? That question changes everything because it shifts the focus away from becoming a different person and toward rediscovering the person who was there all along. Think about a child who wanted to say, "That hurt my feelings," but stayed silent because they feared making someone angry. Think about a child who wanted to say, "I don't want to share today," but forced a smile because being generous earned approval. Think about a child who wanted to cry, complain, or ask for comfort, but instead became the one comforting everyone else. None of these wishes were wrong. They were normal human needs. Yet when those needs repeatedly felt risky, the child slowly learned to hide them. Years later, those hidden needs often return in unexpected ways. A person who never allows themselves to feel angry may suddenly experience overwhelming resentment after years of giving too much. Someone who never admits feeling lonely may become deeply attached to relationships that offer only small amounts of attention. Someone who never allows themselves to say no may quietly hope that others will somehow notice their exhaustion without being asked. The shadow does not disappear because it is ignored. In many cases, it grows stronger in silence. It waits until life becomes too painful to continue pretending that every sacrifice feels good. One of the most misunderstood emotions in this process is anger. Many empaths fear anger because they associate it with rejection, conflict, or losing control. They convince themselves that good people should never feel it. They try to replace every moment of frustration with understanding. They excuse hurtful behavior because they can see another person's pain. They forgive long before they have healed. They explain away disrespect because they know everyone has struggles. Compassion becomes so automatic that they stop asking an important question: what about my pain? Suppressed anger does not disappear simply because it is ignored. Instead, it often changes form. Sometimes it becomes anxiety. Sometimes it becomes constant self-criticism. Sometimes it becomes emotional numbness. Sometimes it appears as unexplained exhaustion. Jung believed that emotions we refuse to acknowledge do not vanish. They continue influencing our lives from the background. Healthy anger is not the desire to hurt someone. Healthy anger simply says that a boundary has been crossed. It reminds us that our dignity matters. It protects our values. It tells us when we are giving more than we can afford to give. When that voice is silenced for years, people often lose the ability to recognize when they are being treated unfairly. They become so skilled at understanding everyone else that they no longer understand themselves. Hidden beneath all of this is another forgotten part of the personality. It is the child who wanted attention without feeling guilty. The child who wanted to rest without earning it first. The child who wanted to say no without fearing rejection. The child who wanted to be imperfect and still feel loved. Many adults believe that child disappeared long ago. They described themselves as naturally selfless, naturally giving, naturally quiet. But perhaps those qualities are only part of the story. The child who seemed selfish was never truly selfish at all. That child simply had normal human needs. They wanted fairness, they wanted comfort, they wanted freedom to express emotions honestly. They wanted to believe that love did not have to be earned every single day. Those needs were never destroyed. They simply learned to hide beneath years of people-pleasing and emotional responsibility. This realization can feel uncomfortable because it challenges an identity that has existed for decades. Yet it also opens the door to something far more hopeful. If those hidden parts still exist, then they can also be welcomed back. Healing often begins with a surprising discovery. It does not require becoming less loving. It does not require becoming cold, distant, or uncaring. Many empaths worry that if they stop sacrificing themselves, they will become selfish. This fear keeps them trapped because they believe there are only two choices. Either they give everything to others, or they become someone they do not want to be. Real healing offers another path. It teaches that kindness and boundaries can exist together. Compassion and self-respect are not enemies. In fact, they strengthen each other. A boundary is not a wall built to keep people out. It is a healthy limit that protects what matters. Saying no is not an act of cruelty. It is often an act of honesty. Asking for help is not weakness, it is trust. Admitting that you are tired is not failure, it is self-awareness. Resting is not laziness. It is how the mind and body recover. These ideas sound simple, but for someone who spent years believing that love had to be earned, they can feel completely unfamiliar. One of the hardest parts of healing is learning to tolerate guilt without allowing it to control every decision. The first time someone who has always pleased others says no, guilt often appears immediately. It may feel as though they have done something terrible, even when they have behaved respectfully. This guilt does not always mean they have made the wrong choice. Very often, it simply means they are breaking an old pattern. The nervous system reacts because it remembers a time when protecting personal needs felt dangerous. That old fear whispers that rejection is coming. But healing asks a different question. Is this guilt coming from kindness, or is it coming from an outdated belief that my needs should always come last? The answer slowly becomes clearer with practice. Every healthy boundary teaches the mind that respect does not require constant self-sacrifice. Every honest conversation proves that relationships can survive disagreement. Every act of self-care reminds the hidden child that they no longer have to disappear in order to belong. Another quiet step in healing is accepting imperfection. Many empaths secretly believe they must always respond correctly, always understand everyone, always forgive quickly, and always remain calm. They place impossible expectations on themselves because perfection once felt like protection. If they could be perfect enough, perhaps no one would become upset with them. Perhaps no one would leave. But perfection is a burden that no human being can carry forever. Real emotional freedom begins when someone accepts that they will sometimes disappoint people, misunderstand situations, make mistakes, and need forgiveness themselves. Their worth does not disappear because they are imperfect. Their value was never supposed to depend on flawless behavior in the first place. This is where one of the greatest misunderstandings finally begins to fall apart. Many empaths spend years believing that the answer is to care less. They tell themselves they must stop being sensitive, stop feeling so deeply, or stop loving people so much. Yet every attempt to harden themselves usually leaves them feeling empty because kindness was never the real problem. Their ability to care is one of their greatest strengths. The true problem begins when every act of compassion requires abandoning themselves. The real change is not becoming less caring. The real change is refusing to disappear while caring for others. It is choosing to stay connected to your own emotions while making space for someone else's. It is understanding that your needs deserve the same respect you so freely give away. The deepest transformation does not happen when an empath builds a harder heart. It happens when they finally stop believing that loving others requires leaving themselves behind. The greatest tragedy was never that this child cared too much. It was that they quietly learned their own heart mattered less than everyone else's. They grew up believing love had to be earned through patience, sacrifice, and endless understanding. They became the one who listened, the one who forgave, the one who stayed, and the one who carried burdens that were never theirs to carry. Over time, they forgot one simple truth. Love was never supposed to cost them their identity. Their needs were never meant to come last. Their feelings were never meant to stay hidden. Their voice was never meant to remain silent. The child who believed they had to earn love often becomes the adult who gives too much, not because they are weak, but because they spent years believing that giving was the safest way to belong. Yet healing begins the moment that old belief is questioned. Healing does not ask you to become selfish. It asks you to stop disappearing. It asks you to believe that your peace matters, your boundaries matter, your dreams matter, and your heart deserves the same kindness you have spent your entire life offering everyone else. The most powerful empath is not the one who sacrifices endlessly. It is the one who learns that compassion becomes stronger when it includes themselves. The moment you stop abandoning yourself is the moment your kindness stops being a survival strategy and starts becoming a genuine choice. That is where real freedom begins. That is where the hidden child finally feels safe enough to come home. Perhaps the greatest act of love you will ever give the world is not giving more of yourself away. Perhaps it is finally allowing yourself to exist without guilt, without fear, and without believing you must earn the right to be loved. If this message touched something deep inside you, write just one word in the comments. Healing. Not for this channel, but for the child within you who spent so many years believing their needs had to wait. Your one word may also remind someone else that they are not alone on this journey. If you found value in this video, please take a moment to like it, because every like helps these conversations reach people who may need them the most. Share this video with someone who is always taking care of everyone else, but rarely takes care of themselves. And if you want more videos that explore psychology, emotional healing, Carl Jung's wisdom, and the hidden patterns that shape our lives, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next journey together. Thank you for watching. Thank you for spending this time with us. And until our next video, remember this one truth. You deserve the same love, patience, and compassion that you so freely give to everyone else.